Okay, let's get into this one. It's a story that starts like a dream. That amazing feeling of a Caribbean cruise, warm sun, blue water, adventure ahead.
Absolutely. The kind of trip people save up for, look forward to for months.
But for one family, the Bradleys, back in March 1998, that dream turned into, well, an absolute nightmare, a mystery that's still baffling decades later. We're talking about the vanishing of Amy Lynn Bradley.
It's a case that really sticks with you. The setting itself is so contained, yet the answers seem lost in the vastness.
Exactly. Amy was, what, 23, just graduated from Longwood University. Everyone described her as outgoing, athletic, full of energy.
Yeah, and a strong swimmer, too. Lifeguard training, even, which, makes some of the theories harder to just accept at face value.
Right. She had a new job lined up, computer consulting, ready to start right after the cruise. She was on board the Rhapsody of the Seas with her parents, Ron and Iva, and her younger brother, Brad.
A family trip. But there was apparently this little undercurrent, wasn't there? Amy having some anxiety about being out on the open sea.
Yeah, just a detail mention, but it adds this kind of unsettling layer looking back. So what we want to do here is really unpack the timeline of those last hours Amy was seen.
And the immediate aftermath, the chaos, the conflicting stories.
Yeah, the theories that sprung up, some wild, some maybe plausible, and the evidence, or lack thereof, that's kept this case alive,
Yeah.
really for almost 3 decades now. It's a lot.
It really is. And what's so striking is how fast it happened. 1 minute, it's a normal vacation. The next, an enduring mystery. You've got eyewitness accounts, family memories, forensic issues, cruise line protocol.
A real puzzle.
Definitely. And piecing it together, trying to figure out what actually happened versus what people think happened, that's the challenge. The initial response, too, that really set the tone for everything that followed.
Okay, so let's go back. The ship, Rhapsody of the Seas, left San Juan, Puerto Rico, March 21st, 1998, heading for places like Aruba, Curacao.
Standard Caribbean run.
And Amy seemed to be having a good time, right? Exploring the ship, enjoying herself. She apparently hung out a bit with the guys in the ship's band, Blue Orchid.
Uh-huh. The Calypso band. They were pretty popular on board, apparently. She was social, engaging with people.
They even had those professional family photos taken that evening. You see them everywhere now when you look up the case. Just smiling, normal.
It's chilling, isn't it? That contrast between the happy vacation photo and what was about to unfold. It really underscores the shock of it all.
So fast forward to the night of March 23rd, going into the early morning of the 24th.
Ah,
This is the critical window.
absolutely crucial.
Amy and her brother Brad were out late, partying at the ship's nightclub, dancing, hanging out with other passengers, crew members.
Pretty typical cruise ship nightlife.
Brad heads back to their cabin around 3:35 a.m.,
Right.
and Amy comes back just 5 minutes later, 3:40 a.m. And we know this pretty solidly, right, because of the key card data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's one of the few objective data points we have in that immediate time frame. The electronic lock recorded her entry at 3:40 a.m. It's a fixed point in a story full of shifting recollections.
Okay, so she's back in the cabin. She and Brad talk for a bit out on their balcony.
Uh-huh. Brad remembers this part vividly.
He said she wanted to stay out there for the fresh air and wind. Didn't want to be in the closed room.
Yeah, that's what he reported. He went inside to sleep, left her sitting out there on a lounge chair.
And he told her he loved her. Just a casual goodnight.
A moment that becomes incredibly heavy in retrospect. The last time anyone in the family definitively saw her and spoke with her.
Then, by 6 a.m., she's gone. Vanished. Just over 2 hours after she got back to the room.
2 hours. It's such a short window.
Her cigarettes and lighter were missing, which suggests maybe she took them with her.
Could mean she just stepped out for a smoke, maybe somewhere else on the ship.
But, and this is key, her wallet was still in the room, left behind. And her shoes, too, according to most sources.
Right. No wallet, no shoes. That argues against her planning to, leave the ship or go wandering off for a long time. You'd take your shoes at least. Your ID, money.
It's confusing. Small details, but they matter. They really paint a strange picture of those last moments.
Definitely raises flags about whether she left willingly or planned to be gone long.
So her dad, Ron, he apparently saw her asleep on the balcony around 5:30 a.m.
That's his account, yeah?
He checks again just 30 minutes later, 6:00 a.m., and she's not there.
And the panic must have set in immediately.
Instantly. The family alerts the ship's staff right away. They're begging them, stop people getting off the ship in Curacao. Search the ship now.
You can only imagine their desperation. Their daughter is missing on a ship in the middle of the ocean, essentially. You'd expect an all-hands-on-deck immediate response.
But that's not what happened. This is where it gets really maddening for the family and, frankly, baffling.
The cruise line's response, or lack of it, is a huge point of criticism in this case.
Royal Caribbean apparently didn't make a shipwide announcement about Amy being missing until 7:50 a.m., almost 2 hours after the family raised the alarm.
2 hours. And worse.
They let passengers start getting off the ship in Curacao without locking it down, without doing an immediate, thorough search first.
It's almost unbelievable from an investigative standpoint. That golden hour, maybe hours, just lost. Evidence could walk off, witnesses could disappear, contamination.
It's like Crime Scene Management 101 failed, right? Secure the scene, especially a contained scene like a ship.
Precisely. Allowing disembarkation before a search is a massive procedural failure in a situation like this. It hampered any potential investigation right from the start.
And the family was understandably furious. Bradley has been very vocal about the cruise director at the time, Kirk Detweiler. Called him flippant, said he had zero empathy.
Yeah, Detweiler's comments have become pretty infamous, especially after that Netflix doc.
He was quoted saying something like, "Life goes on, cruises go on. We're not going to stop everybody's cruise because there's a missing girl."
Oof, that's incredibly callous, if accurate. And Brad felt that attitude represented the cruise line's whole approach back then, prioritized the schedule over safety over a missing person.
A real lack of accountability, he called it. It just sounds awful.
It really speaks to a different era, perhaps, before stricter regulations like the CVSSA came into force later, mandating better reporting and security. But at that moment, for the Bradleys, it must have felt like indifference.
So in all this chaos, the family starts thinking back, trying to piece things together, and a name comes up connected to Amy's last night.
Right. Alistair Douglas, known as Yellow.
He was one of the entertainers in that band Blue Orchid. He'd been seen dancing with Amy earlier in the night.
Uh-huh. And then there was that witness, Lori Thompson.
Yeah, what did she say she saw?
She claimed she saw Amy with Douglas on deck sometime between 5:00 and 6:00 a.m., really close to the time she disappeared.
Wow, okay.
And then Thompson said about 15 minutes later, she saw Douglas walking away alone, looking like he was in a hurry. Brisky, she described it.
That's specific. And troubling, given the timing.
It is. Eyewitness accounts are vital, but you always have to be careful. Early morning, maybe low light, after a long night, memories can be imperfect, but it's definitely a significant piece of information investigators had to look at.
And there was something else with Douglas, something Brad remembered later.
Yeah, this is really suspicious. Weeks after Amy vanished, Douglas apparently went up to Brad and said something like, "Hey man, I'm sorry to hear about your sister."
Okay, but the chilling part.
This was before the news about Amy being missing was really public knowledge. How would he know to be sorry about Brad's sister specifically unless he knew something?
That's a massive red flag. Huge. What happened with him officially?
Well, he did take a polygraph test. The results were inconclusive.
Which means...
What exactly?
Doesn't mean innocent. Doesn't mean guilty. Just that the test couldn't determine if he was being truthful. Polygraphs are tricky nerves, countermeasures. They're not foolproof, not admissible in court usually.
So it didn't clear him, but didn't pin anything on him either. Exactly. He's always maintained his innocence, and authorities never formally charged him with anything related to Amy's disappearance. So while those interactions are suspicious, there was never enough concrete evidence to move forward against him. It remains another frustrating question mark.
Okay, so the immediate aftermath is just confusion, suspicion, and a botched initial response. No clear answers emerge quickly.
No, not at all. And that void gets filled with theories. Lots of them.
Let's dig into those. Because for nearly 30 years, these conflicting ideas have really driven the narrative. Investigators basically looked at three main possibilities, right?
Pretty much. And each one has points for and against it, and none have ever been definitively proven. It's why the case is still so frustratingly open.
Theory number one, accidental fall or suicide. This is something the cruise lines seem to lean towards early on.
Yeah, some crew members, including Detweiler, reportedly suggested she might have fallen or jumped overboard. It's a grim thought, but sadly, overboard incidents do happen on cruises.
And statistically, alcohol is often a factor in those, isn't it?
It is, unfortunately. Studies suggest a significant percentage involve intoxication. Given Amy had been drinking and partying, from a purely statistical viewpoint, it's a possibility that has to be considered, however painful. Disorientation, impaired judgment.
Not the family. They absolutely reject that.
Vehemently. They point to Amy's known fear of heights, her anxiety about the sea itself. Brad's quote is powerful. I can guarantee those two things didn't happen. They just don't believe she would have jumped or could have accidentally fallen given her specific fears.
And there was a big problem with investigating this theory forensically, wasn't there?
A huge problem. Peter Valentin, a former state police detective who looked at the case, pointed out the critical failure. The cabin, including the balcony, was cleaned before the FBI could examine it.
So any potential evidence of a struggle, slip, anything,
Right.
wiped away.
Exactly. Valentin basically said, how can you tell if someone fell, was pushed, or just sat on the balcony if all the potential trace evidence is gone? Her fingerprints, DNA would be there anyway. The cleaning made it impossible to know. It's an investigator's nightmare.
And even if she did go overboard, accidentally, people argue, well, she was a strong swimmer.
True, but the ocean from that height, it's not like falling into a pool. The impact alone can be like hitting concrete, causing serious injury or stunning someone.
Plus the ship's wake, right? The currents from the propellers.
Immense forces. Even a strong swimmer, if injured or disoriented, could be pulled under or swept away incredibly quickly, especially in the dark. The cold water, the shock. Being a good swimmer doesn't guarantee survival in those conditions. It's a brutal reality.
Okay, so theory 1 is possible, but hampered by lack of evidence and strong family disagreement. Theory 2, human trafficking or abduction.
This is the theory the Bradley family holds on to most strongly. It's the one that, for them, offers the hope that Amy might still be alive somewhere.
They believe she was taken, smuggled off the ship, and forced into sex slavery.
It's a terrifying thought, and it's gained a lot of traction, fueled by some really disturbing alleged sightings and pieces of potential evidence over the years.
Let's talk about the photos. That was in 2005.
Yes, years later, someone anonymously sent the Bradleys these really upsetting photos found on some adult website. They showed a woman, scantily clad, who looked strikingly like Amy.
And the name associated with the pictures was Jay's.
Yeah, possibly short for Jasmine, maybe a working name. The family was convinced it was Amy.
And the FBI looked at them.
They did. And according to the family and reports, the FBI analysis concluded the woman in the photos was likely Amy. That's huge.
They couldn't trace where the photos came from.
No, the website's IP address was untraceable, a dead end. So you have this incredibly potent piece of visual information, seemingly confirmed by the FBI, but no way to follow it up. It cemented the trafficking theory for the family, understandably.
Then there was that Navy sailor story. Bill Hefner. This was earlier, 1999.
Right, just about a year after she disappeared. Hefner, a retired Navy officer, claimed a woman came up to him in a brothel in Curacao.
And she said her name was Amy Bradley.
That's what he claimed. Said she begged him for help, told him she'd come ashore for drugs, and now she was stuck, couldn't leave.
Why didn't he report it right away?
He said he was in an area that was off limits for military personnel, feared getting into trouble himself. It's a controversial point. It may be understandable from his perspective.
So the FBI looked into it later.
They did, but by the time they investigated his claim, the brothel had burned down. Any potential evidence, witnesses, gone. Another frustrating dead end, but a story that strongly supports the trafficking narrative.
And there were other sightings too, weren't there? In the Caribbean?
Several over the years. In August '98, just months after she vanished, 2 Canadian divers in Curacao saw a woman they thought looks like Amy, tattoos matched apparently, at Playa Porto Marie.
Was she alone?
No, she was with 2 men who seemed to be controlling her, preventing her from talking to the divers. That's their account.
And others?
Another man, David Carmichael, also in Curacao, saw a woman resembling Amy flanked by 2 men. He said one of the men stared him down, motioned her away. Then, years later, 2005, a tourist named Judy Maurer in Barbados saw a woman in a restroom who said her name was Amy. She was with 3 men who seemed intimidating.
Wow. Multiple sightings, different islands, similar circumstances, woman resembling Amy, accompanied by controlling men.
It definitely paints a pattern that supports the family's fears. But again, we have to bring in that caution about eyewitness identification, especially over time.
You mentioned Peter Valentin, the detective, was skeptical.
He was cautious. He made the point that eyewitnesses can become absolutely convinced they saw something, even if forensic evidence later suggests it wasn't possible. Memory isn't a perfect recording. It doesn't mean these people are lying, just that memory can be flawed, influenced by suggestion, or the desire to help.
And there are arguments against the trafficking theory itself, from a sort of criminal logic perspective.
Yes. Many experts in trafficking find it unlikely that organized traffickers would target a middle-class American tourist on a family cruise. The risk is just too high.
Why? because it would bring massive attention.
Exactly. International law enforcement, FBI, huge media storm. Traffickers usually prey on more vulnerable, marginalized individuals who are less likely to be missed or have resources mobilized for them. Abducting someone off a guarded cruise ship full of witnesses in a tourist area, the logistics seem incredibly difficult and risky.
So while the sightings are compelling, the underlying premise faces skepticism from experts in the field.
It's a difficult clash between the family's hope, fueled by these accounts, and the operational realities often cited by trafficking experts.
Okay, that leaves theory 3. Amy left on her own accord.
This one's less prominent, certainly not something the family buys into, but it gets floated. The idea she just disappeared intentionally.
Is there anything supporting that?
It's thin. Some point to alleged logins to the family's missing person website years later, supposedly traced to IP addresses in Barbados. The suggestion being maybe she's alive, monitoring the search, but choosing not to make contact.
But IP addresses can be masked, right?
Yeah.
And anyone could access a public website.
Precisely. It's very circumstantial, not proof she's alive and hiding. The family strongly refutes it. She had plans, a job, strong ties, and again, she left without her wallet or shoes. It doesn't fit.
There's also been some sensitive talk about the family dynamics.
Yeah, some outside observers have commented on what they perceive as enmeshed dynamics, very close, maybe blurred boundaries, and purely speculated, that maybe Amy was trying to assert independence.
That feels like reaching, based on very little.
It's important to stress it is speculation, an external interpretation of family closeness, not evidence of anything. Trying to apply psychological theories after the fact is fraught with problems, especially when a family is grieving.
And critics also point to seeming inconsistencies in the family's story over time.
Yes, things like the exact time Ron saw Amy on the balcony varying slightly in different accounts, 4:30, 5:00, 5:3 a.m., or questioning how Eva could sleep through activity in a small cabin, or why Ron felt immediate panic after just 30 minutes rather than assuming Amy went for coffee.
How much weight should we give those points?
It's complex. Yes, investigators note inconsistencies. But trauma profoundly affects memory. Details get jumbled, times become fuzzy. Intense fear can create tunnel vision or immediate panic that seems disproportionate later, and people sleep differently as some sleep through anything. So while these are points critics raise, they don't necessarily point to deception. They often just reflect the fog of trauma and the fallibility of memory under extreme stress.
And the family leaving Curacao quickly on a charter plane. That's also been questioned.
Right. Some ask why they didn't stay and search if they believe she was there. But again, you can see it as wanting to get home, regroup, maybe start a private search, escape a situation where they felt unsupported. Decisions made in crisis are rarely simple.
Okay, let's shift to the official investigation. The FBI. Initially, they said no evidence of foul play.
That was the early assessment, yeah. And the case did go cold for periods.
But more recently, Bradley mentioned the FBI's current stance, or at least their assessment, is different.
According to Brad, the FBI has told the family there's no evidence Amy ever left the Bradley cabin on the cruise ship in 1998.
Whoa, if that's the FBI's internal conclusion, that's huge. It implies they believe she went overboard from the balcony or something happened in the room.
Exactly. It directly contradicts the idea she was abducted off the ship. It focuses the investigation entirely on that cabin and balcony space, which, if true, makes the fact that the cabin was cleaned even more devastating.
Because that's where the answers likely were, under that scenario.
Potentially, yes. The compromised crime scene is the original sin of this investigation, really. Plus, the jurisdictional nightmares of a crime in international waters, under Liberian law technically, added layers of complexity.
It sounds like the investigation was hampered from minute one.
Massively. Between the cleaned room and the international legal issues, the FBI faced an uphill battle.
Yet, they still list her as missing. There's still a reward.
Absolutely. Amy is still officially an active missing person. The FBI offers a $25,000 reward for information leading to her recovery. They've released progressed photos over the years, too, trying to keep her image current.
It shows they haven't completely closed the door. Which I guess leads us back to Royal Caribbean's role in all this. The family obviously felt strongly enough to sue them.
They did twice, alleging negligence, defamation, causing emotional distress over how the disappearance was handled. They clearly felt the cruise line's actions, or inactions, contributed to the lack of answers.
How did Royal Caribbean respond?
They put out statements saying they acted appropriately, responsibly, and basically framed the lawsuits as the family projecting their grief.
And the lawsuits were dismissed.
They were back in 2000, which highlights how incredibly difficult it is legally to hold cruise lines accountable in these situations, especially back then, given the evidence issues and maritime law complexities. It doesn't necessarily mean the cruise line did everything right, just that the legal bar for negligence wasn't met in court.
This case really did seem to expose some big security gaps on cruise ships at the time, though.
Oh, definitely. The lack of comprehensive CCTV footage was a major issue, and it highlighted the broader problem of cruise lines historically underreporting disappearances and crimes before the Cruise Vessel Security and Safety Act, the CVSSA, came along in 2010.
What did the CVSSA change?
It mandated much stricter reporting of disappearances, deaths, and serious crimes to the FBI and Coast Guard. It also required things like improved surveillance, higher railings in places, and access to emergency contacts and law enforcement. Cases like Amy's were a big part of the push for that legislation. It forced more transparency and accountability.
So, almost 30 years on, where are things now? The search hasn't stopped for the family.
Not at all. They've poured everything into it. Hired private investigators, though sadly, they've said some just took their money, scammed them, which is heartbreaking.
That happens too often in these cases.
It does. Organizations like the nation's Missing Children organization helped with some costs, thankfully. But the family's resolve is incredible. They still have this gut feeling, they say, that Amy's out there.
Brad's quote about hope. The lack of closure or not knowing allows us to continue to hope, so I actually prefer it that way. Wow.
It speaks volumes about coping with ambiguous loss. The not knowing, however painful, keeps a door open that certainty might slam shut.
Yeah, and they have the band, Amy's brother's band, playing music as a tribute.
Yeah, a way to keep her memory alive, keep her name out there, feel connected to her. It's very moving.
The Netflix documentary, Amy Bradley is Missing, definitely brought the case back into the spotlight recently.
It did. Generated new tips, got people talking again, which is always the hope with these kinds of shows. Maybe someone remembers something, finally connects a dot.
But it also stirred things up again, right? Like the comments from Detweiler.
Yeah, it reignited that anger and frustration for the family and the public, and it also led to more people scrutinizing the story. The inconsistencies, the different theories, it's that double-edged sword of renewed attention.
It really feels like an investigation that was flawed from the start, combined with just impossible circumstances.
I think that's fair. The initial mistakes, cleaning the room, delaying the lockdown, coupled with maritime law issues and the unreliability of memory over decades, it created, as you said, this almost impenetrable wall. Peter Valentin's thought rings true. Maybe the only way this gets solved is if somebody remembering that they know something finally comes forward.
It's a chilling reminder of how vulnerable you can be, even on a vacation, and how complex these cases become when they happen at sea. The alcohol, the ship's procedures back then, the vast ocean, so much uncertainty.
And Amy Lynn Bradley remains officially missing. The FBI case is open, the $25,000 reward stands. There's always that slim hope that new information, a new lead, could still break the case open.
It really makes you think about the power of stories, of narratives, when the hard evidence just isn't there. How we fill in the blanks.
Absolutely. What narrative do you cling to? The one that offers hope, even against the odds? Or the one that seems more statistically likely, even if it's unbearable? It forces us to confront how we deal with trauma and uncertainty.
You know, listening back to all this, it's incredibly unsettling. If you're listening and this case resonates with you, or if you have theories of your own, definitely let us know in the comments below on YouTube. The channel is Whispers of Crime.
Yeah, we read those. And while you're there, please do like this video and subscribe to Whispers of Crime. Hit that notification bell too, so you don't miss our next deep dive into these kinds of chilling cases.
And of course, you can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We have other episodes out there too if you want to check them out.
Every follow, every listen helps keep these stories alive.
So, the disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley. It's a haunting story with no final chapter written, and it leaves you with a heavy question, doesn't it? In cases like this, where the truth feels lost at sea, what's more important? Holding on to hope, no matter how slim, that someone might return.
Or seeking the definitive, hard truth, even if that truth is the most painful one imaginable. It's a question with no easy answer, especially for those still waiting.